Hello everyone! So today I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to render water textures using markers. And so here I'm using Copic markers, but you can use any kind of markers that you have. And you can also use any sort of traditional medium almost to get a similar effect. So you could use colored pencils, watercolors, paints, anything you have really. So first I'm starting by creating the sort of warped horizontal teardrop shapes all across the page, and I'm spreading them out so that they are fairly close together but clearly not touching. And my tip for this is, as you're coloring these, make sure you color using only one layer, because the more you layer, the darker it will be. Don't worry if it's streaky, but try to get the lightest possible color that you can. Then go back and using the same color blue, create shadows on every single shape that you've created. So water actually has sort of a random movement, and because of that, the light, it's going to hit different peaks of the water in different places, which means the shadows are going to be in different places. So I think it looks better if you sort of alternate between where you put the shadows. Put some on the top, the bottom, the sides. And I think that looks a bit more organic. Then I'm going in with a colorless blender and just sort of removing a little bit of the color as much as I can. And now here I'm using BG15 Aqua, which is sort of a blue-green color because I'm trying to render ocean water, and wherever I put the shadows I'm adding another streak of this green color, and depending on what type of water you're trying to create, you can use whatever color you want. And then you're just going to take the lighter version of that color, for me that is BG11, and I'm just blending that out as seamlessly as I can. And now here, I'm taking B02 and I'm using it to create smaller shapes where there's sort of larger white spaces, and I'm also creating some streaks here and there to fill in those gaps. I'm trying not to get them to touch, but if they do, that's okay as well. Now I'm going in with B23 because I wanted to create sort of a deeper shadow. This is where I start to differ from the image on the left that I drew before this. So if you want to do this as well, use the very tip of your marker to create a very thin shadow on wherever you like really. And now I'm just going over everything using the first lightest color that I used, B00, and I'm just blending them a little bit better, and I'm also adding some of this color in between the little white spaces to have some variation. Now here I'm using white gouache to create the highlights, and this is the last step. I recommend using a white gel pen if you have one. Unfortunately, mine ran out just a couple of days ago and I can't really go out to get one right now, but white gouache works almost just as well. So yeah, I'm just adding some streaks and some dots. This kind of mimics like water or sunlight causing the water to sparkle, I guess. It's not super realistic water, but I think it gives it a pretty interesting effect. And that's how it looks like when it's done. So now here, I'm going to show you how I did another technique, because, you know, what I just did, that was just what you can do to render, you know, the surface of water, but there's so many other things that water can be doing. So here I'm going to show you how I incorporated waves into an actual finished piece this time. And so started out with some darker colors, some dark blues and dark greens, because again, I'm doing ocean water. And now here, as you can see, I'm going in with oranges, purples, yellows, and pinks on the part of the wave that is further away from us, the viewer. And that's because in the background, you can't see it yet, but I'm going to do sort of a sunset scene. And so the sky, again, will be full of those same colors. And so I wanted to have that color look like it was reflected onto the water. And so, of course, if the sun is in the background, then you'll see more of those colors reflected closer to that. So on the part of the wave that is further away from us. And then closer to us, I have those darker colors. And then I'm overlaying those colors with some more blue tones, as you can see. This was actually really quick. It only took me to do both waves. I do one on the other side as well, and to do both, I think it only took me about 30 minutes total. So of course these are I'm going for a more stylistic, illustrative look, not super realistic waves, because if I was going to do that, well, water is one of the most complicated things to render, I think. I watched a video the other day of someone who had done something similar with pencil, and he said the drawing took him 4 months or so to complete. And it ended up looking really good, of course, but like, this is sort of if you want to do a simple background but still, make it look like you put effort. So now I'm going in with my brush pen and a couple of other thin Micron pens, and I'm just creating sort of this, honestly, just a scribbly texture is the best way I can describe it, over where you would see, I guess you would describe, if you were looking at a wave that was like splashing like that, as a sort of like spray texture, where there would be, a lot of droplets. And so I'm sort of kind of trying my best to mimic that using the black pens. Now I'm going in and sketching out the hair. I attempted to make her hair look like it was like flowing water as well. So again, I used oranges, yellows, pinks as undertones and went over with blue. I hope it rendered well. I'm not sure if it did, but either way, I like how it ended up looking. I go over with some white colored pencil as well, and then I go over with gouache to make it, or to add more highlights to the water. And then I add highlights to the waves as well with some gouache. Again, just like the other one, I think this would be much easier with white gel pen, but I just made do with what I had. Now I'm going in with the background, which was very frustrating. In a previous video, I showed you how I did the background with pastels and then regretted it and said, I should have just done it with Copic markers. Now in this one, I think I should have just gone in with pastels, because it was really hard to, blend and also not have it be streaky. So in the end, I go over with some light pink pastel and just go over it to make the streaks a little bit less noticeable. And then I go over it again with white gouache to add some cloud texture. And now I'm just going in and quickly coloring the skin. At this point, I will say the waves were the most fun thing to color in the picture. It was really relaxing, and so at this point I didn't really care about what was supposed to be the focal point, which is the girl. But yeah, I'm just coloring in the skin and then her swimsuit. then now I'm just going in and doing the sand. And I'm using a mixture of the brown markers and also some colored pencils later to get darker shading. So here's the finished piece, and I hope you all enjoyed the tutorial and hopefully learned something. These are just 2 different ways that you can render water in 2 different situations, but there's so many more. So maybe for Mermaid, which is coming up very soon, I'll make another video expanding on the topic. But yeah, I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did and want to see more content, then please consider subscribing. Have a good day.